Before all the cards have been spoiled for Duskmourn, we're building a standard deck using only cards from Duskmourn, and that deck tech is coming up right now. Thanks for checking me out here at Wizard's Whimsy. I'm your host, Patrick. We're going to be building a Duskmourn standard deck, and we're only using cards that have been spoiled so far. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Looking at the land package, we're running 23 lands. We're running 3 forests, 3 mountains, and 3 swamps. We're running 2 Razortrap Gorge. It is the red-black land that comes in tapped unless a player has 13 or less life. We have 2 Bleeding Woods that is the same. It's a red and a green, and it comes in tapped unless a player has 13 or less life. 2 Strangled Cemetery. It enters tapped unless a player has 13 or less life. It taps for a black or a green. We have 4 Blazemire Verge. It taps for a black, and it can tap for a red, but you have to have a swamp or a mountain. We're running 4 Thornspire Verge. It taps for a red, and it can tap for a green, but only if you control a mountain or a forest. We're running 4 copies of Hauntwood Shrieker. Is a 3-drop, 1 generic, and 2 green. It is a beast mutant creature. It is a 3/3. Whenever Hauntwood Shrieker attacks, Manifest Dread. Manifest Dread is look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of those cards onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature, and the other into the graveyard. You can turn the face down card up by paying its mana cost at any time if it is a creature. He also has pay 2, a generic and a green. Reveal target face down permanent. If it's a creature card, you may turn it face up. We do have a mana dork. It is Twitching Doll. It is a 2-drop, 1 generic and a green 2/2 artifact creature spider toy. It has tap, add 1 mana of any color, put a nest counter on Twitching Doll. Also has tap, sacrifice Twitching Doll. Create a 2/2 green spider creature token with reach for each counter on Twitching Doll. Activate only as a sorcery. We are running 4 of these. 4 copies. Vavo Faithful. It's a 1-drop, single black creature, human cleric, 1/1. It has pay 4, 3 generic and a black. Sacrifice Vavo Faithful. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. We also have 4 copies of our main payoff, Valgavoth Terror Eater. It's a 9-drop, 6 generic and 3 black. Legendary creature Elder Demon. It is a 9/9. It has flying and lifelink. Has ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. And then during your turn, you may play cards exiled with Vagavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. This is our payoff card. This is the card that we want to get out, and this is what's going to win us the games. Razorkin Needlehead is a 2-drop, 2 red mana creature human assassin, 2/2. Razorkin Needlehead has first strike during your turn, and whenever an opponent draws a card, Razorkin Needlehead deals 1 damage to them. We're running 3 copies of this so that we can punish our opponents for drawing cards. Overlord of the Boiler Bilge is a 6-drop, 4 generic, 2 red, enchantment creature, avatar horror. He's a 5/5. He has impending 4. You pay 2 generic and 2 red. If you cast a spell for its impending cost, it enters with 4 time counters on it and isn't a creature until the last one is removed. At the beginning of your end step, remove a time counter from it. Whenever Overlord of the Boiler Bilge enters or attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target. We're running 2 copies of this, and one of the good things about it is that we can cheat it out, or we can wait for the impending counters to come off of it. We're running 2 copies of Overlord of the Hauntwoods. He's a 5-drop, 3 generic and 2 green, enchantment creature, avatar horror. He's a 6/5. He has impending 4. You pay 1 generic and 2 green. As whenever Overlord of the Hauntwoods enters or attacks, create a tapped colorless land token named Everywhere that is every basic land type. Overlord of the Hauntwoods is one of the ways that we're using to try to ramp just in case we have to hard cast Valgavoth. But our goal is not to hard cast Valgavoth, but to cheat him in, because no one wants to pay 9 mana for any spell. We're running 2 copies of Unstoppable Slasher. He's a 3-drop, 2 generic and a black creature zombie assassin. He's a 2/3. He has Death Touch. Whenever Unstoppable Slasher deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up. When Unstoppable Slasher dies, if it had no counters on it, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. So as long as we can keep him out and keep him on the battlefield without any counters on him, he just keeps coming back and coming back. He does come back with the 2 stun counters on it, but it's something that the opponent will have to deal with. And you know, the more time that they're spending trying to deal with what's on our board, instead of dealing damage to us, the better off we'll be. So that's one of the reasons I put this card in there. He's a huge threat for little mana cost, and he can keep coming back and keep presenting that threat. We're running 2 copies of Insidious Fungus. It is 1 green mana creature fungus. It's a 1/2. It has 2 sacrifice Insidious Fungus, choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tap. Now there is no timing restriction on when you activate this, so you can do it at your opponent's end step, or if they put something out that's like a enchantment that gets rid of one of your creatures, or an artifact that's not letting you get the cards out of your graveyard. There's multiple ways that you can utilize this card, and you can do it at instant speed. So it's a great removal, and since it doesn't have to be tapped, you can do this at any time. There's no timing restriction on it. So you can destroy that problematic artifact or enchantment, or go ahead and draw a card and play a land. And you put that land on the battlefield, you know, no matter if it's your opponent's turn or your turn, if you choose that mode, because you can do this at instant speed, you get to put that land out, untap, and then hopefully get your big creature out on the field, and we'll start winning the game. We're running 2 copies of Vile Mutilator. He is a 7-drop, 5 generic, 2 black, creature demon, 6/5. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature or enchantment. He has flying and trample. When Vile Mutilator enters, each opponent sacrifices a non-token enchantment, then sacrifices a non-token creature. So this is one of the ways that we can help control the board and remove creatures from the battlefield. So we want to get him out as soon as we can. So we're hoping we can ramp up into some mana. Vile Mutilator is one of the cards that we want to hard cast, because whenever he enters the battlefield is whenever his effect takes place. So flipping him over from a manifest does not trigger that ability. But if we can hard cast him and get him out, then our opponent will have to sacrifice a non-token enchantment, then sacrifice a non-token creature. We're running 4 copies of Disturbing Mirth. It's a 2-drop, a black and a red enchantment. When Disturbing Mirth enters, you may sacrifice another enchantment or creature. If you do, draw 2 cards. One of the reasons that we're running 4 copies of Disturbing Mirth, it's not just for the draw, but it also has, when you sacrifice Disturbing Mirth, Manifest Dread. So again, we're trying to cheat out our big creatures, and we want to be able to spend as little mana as possible to get them out. We don't want to pay full cost. So when we play Disturbing Mirth, whenever we play our second one, we can sacrifice the first one, draw 2 cards, Manifest Dread, and hopefully just power in and get our big beaters out. Betrayer's Bargain is a 2-drop, 1 generic, a red instant. It has, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature or enchantment, or pay 2. Betrayer's Bargain deals 5 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So this is our creature removal. So we're hoping that we'll have Disturbing Mirth out on the field whenever we cast this, so that we can sacrifice it and Manifest Dread. so that it can start getting our bigger creatures ready for us to flip and cheat them out. So that's one of the reasons that we're running this card. Grab the Prize is a 2-drop sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards. If the discarded card wasn't a land card, Grab the Prize deals 2 damage to each opponent. So one of the things that we're hoping to do with Grab the Prize is whenever we discard a card, we want it to be one of our big beaters. And then we'll be able to activate Vavo Faithful for 4 mana and sacrifice it and return a creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. So this is one of the ways that we can cheat out our big beaters and get them onto the field to where they can start swinging in. It's also where the avatar horrors can actually be cheated in. So we're trying to build synergy with this deck to where we're going to either flip our manifest up for 2 mana, or we are going to return a creature from the graveyard for 4 mana, and we're hoping that it's one of our big creatures, mainly Valgavoth. Any of our big creatures that we can cheat out with either flipping it from a manifest for 2 mana or cheating it out onto the battlefield for 4 mana. That's what we're hoping to do, and that's what we're trying to do with this deck. Is we want our big creatures out and we don't want to pay full cost for them. This deck will actually be able to run a little bit smoother when we put in the cards from the other sets that are currently in standard. But I just wanted to showcase what Duskmourn can do just by itself with the power that it has in the cards and the synergies that are in these cards with your Manifest Dread, returning something from the graveyard to the battlefield. This is what we're trying to do. We want to try to do it as fast as we can. I just wanted to show with what has already been spoiled that you can build a very powerful deck, and that it is a deck that can get you the wins. So you get a chance to, whenever you're playing Arena or if you're building Standard, keep this deck in mind because I think it'll do really well. Thanks for checking out this video. It means a lot to me you took the time to watch it, and I hope it inspired you in some way on building decks using Duskmourn. Now, if you like this sort of content, hit that subscribe button, like button, and leave a comment. I'd like to know what cards you're excited in playing from Duskmourn, and hopefully, like I said, that this shows the power of Duskmourn, and as a standalone, how powerful the set can be. So just imagine once you start adding in cards from the other sets in Standard, just how broken this deck can be and just how fast and broken Standard can be. And until next time, keep slinging those spells.